Good afternoon, and welcome to Straight Talking with Kelly, where real conversations happen. This is where you'll meet some of the most interesting, intelligent, and creative people. They come from a multitude of industries. Today I have with me JenneeJohnson from the mental health and wellness industry. And she's going to talk about her innovation in using mindfulness to forward racial healing. Welcome, Jenée.
Thank you, Kelly. It's wonderful to be with you.
Oh, I'm so happy to have you. But before we get into our deep conversation, let me read a little bit about your background, okay? So Jenée is the founder of the Right Within Experience, an experiential mindfulness program that reclaims humanity, joy, and well-being for Black people through mindfulness practices. These are the human rights and exalted emotions that are eroded in Black lives through the consistent exposure to trauma of racism. The Right Within Experience expands the scope of mindfulness practice to acknowledge its ancient African lineage and increases access and relevance to people of African ancestry. The program promotes healing, sovereignty, and did I say that right?
Sovereignty.
Sovereignty, girl, for Black people, and is curated for those on the front line of community services and social justice missions. Audience, just know that this is just the tip of the iceberg with her bio, but as we delve into more about the conversation, you'll get to hear a little bit more about her background. So again, Jenée, welcome. And I have a little bit that I want to actually kind of walk down memory lane before we get started, because I want the audience to know we go way back, and I can't even remember how far back, but I know you were the executive director at the Black Infants Healthcare when we met through Michael Wagner.
Yes, the Black Infant Health Program in the Department of Health of San Francisco. I was the director of that program, and I am still a public health professional working in the Department of Public Health, and I could talk more about what I do there as well.
Okay, well, go ahead. Why, since you got the platform.
Okay, so the arc in my career took me from being director of the Black Infant Health Program, which is a maternal health program for Black women, addressing the health disparity of infant and maternal mortality. Our babies die at 2 to 3 times the rate of the general population in the first year of life. And what's underneath that is truly the stress that comes from living in a society that is racist. The arc in my career took me into the Trauma-Informed Systems Initiative, where I am the program innovation leader. And the innovation I'm leading is bringing mindfulness into the Department of Public Health. We're the only public health department in the country that is dedicated to trauma-informed systems and bringing mindfulness in as a structure, an infrastructure for healing for the employees of the department. So yes, we go way back to my Black infant health days when I was there for 15 years.
Okay, yeah, like I said, I met you through Michael Wagner, and I know that there were a lot of events that you would have there that I would come to, and then you were part of our financial literacy training programs when we did the Train the Trainer with MoneyWise and Capital One. So anyways, just a lot of different things. So I would like to know now, where were you born and raised?
I'm a New Yorker, born and raised in New York City, Staten Island. Some people, the young people know it as Shaolin. It's the home of the Wu-Tang Clan. And loved growing up in New York, just saw so much of art and culture. My family is from both the Caribbean and Charleston, South Carolina, Gullah people. And so I feel like I had so much richness of Black culture throughout my formative years.
Okay, that is beautiful. And where did you go to school? And when did you come to San Francisco? What got you here?
Well, I went to college in Massachusetts, one of the 7 sister schools, Mount Holyoke, and then I came to California after I had completed a Christian leadership program. and I was invited to come here to actually pursue and teach the Bible. So underneath all that I have is a second degree in theology, and I definitely use, I make some really clear distinctions about empire and colonial Christianity versus the true alive relationship that one can have with God. So that's definitely a part of what I do and bring to the world. It informs me and strengthens me. Yes.
Okay. Now, tell me about your professional background and how it evolved into you becoming a thought leader in the mindfulness community. But hearing that you have a background in theology is not so far fetched now.
Yes, absolutely. So thinking about spirit, contemplation, how do we really source the wholeness of ourselves has always been a part of my reflection. I have a very eclectic career path, but I did land in the Department of Public Health after working as a consultant for the school district, San Francisco Unified School District. I was tasked by the superintendent of schools to start an African American Family Education and Cultural Center, which we did in Bayview. And like a lot of what we see today is good things can get attached to political motives when they're not political. So at some point, the superintendent that came after the superintendent that hired me decided that she did not want an African American Family Resource Center. And so she closed it. So painfully, that forwarded me to the Department of Public Health. And then I was chosen to be the director of the Black Infant Health Program, which still allowed me to really do my work with young Black families, and particularly women, and grow that program. And it just blossomed, and it was a really wonderful time. And from there, I actually began working on what we call quiet sitting, if you will, meditation with the moms. So as they would come in for group learning, we would have them just sit quietly, just to collect themselves from being on the bus, taking Uber or a cab, or running down the street with strollers. Come on in, sit down, get a cup of tea, as I'm drinking one right now. We had a tea bar, a spa water with fruit. Get your tea, your water, sit down, and let's just take a breath together. And this I learned from Dr. Frank Staggers, who is an amazing physician who used to direct the West Oakland Clinic. And he said that Black people should have time to be still and be quiet and meditate. And he did tons of research and showed that this thing that he calls quiet sitting actually lowers the heart rhythms, lowers blood pressure, gives us a break from the high chaotic stress of whatever we've been up to. And it has tremendous health benefits. So I started bringing that to the Black Infant Health Program, such that now it is a part of the statewide curriculum. So when women come in across the state for their group education, they take time to stop and collect themselves and breathe together as a community. So that's how it started taking root in my public health work. And then I moved to trauma, and we saw that with all the good trauma training we have, how are people going to really implement this if they are reactive and stressed and don't have the skills to engage with a very challenging, complex problems? So I went to the leader there and I said, we need mindfulness along with our trauma training. And he said, Jenée, I think you're right. So fast forward, here we are, bringing mindfulness as a part of our trauma-informed work, helping people to build inner calm, resilience, having enough sense and presence to examine their biases and some of the negativity that they may actually be operating in their work, that's unconscious. So it's a very, very powerful tool, not just for stress management, but also for opening up space so people can do more complex work and complex thinking.
I really think having the women come in, sit still, and be quiet, so important. And it's not just there. All of us need to do that. You know, when you think about your day and you're rushing around and stuff, just yesterday, I had done so much back and forth, when I got home, I said, you know what? Sit still and be quiet, because I meditate as well. And I just knew the importance of that. So hearing you say that, it's not just for, the women in the Black infant healthcare program, it's for all of us. Sit still and be quiet.
It is. One of the things that I'm training other people, I'm coordinating a mindfulness certified teacher training for people in the Department of Public Health. We've just graduated 15, and this is a real movement. That's why
congratulations. That is awesome.
Leader. Yeah, we're really building something here. And one of the things that I ask the teachers is to ask themselves, why am I talking? It's a very profound question, but it gives you a moment to just stop, take 2 steps back and think, do I need to speak right now? Because the truth is, silence is all around us. What it requires, though, is for us to stop, take a breath, and just listen. And we cannot tap the depths of our intuition or imagination without being quiet.
Absolutely. That's that God spirit, baby. It talks to you if you just sit still and listen.
Right. Yeah. That's right. That sacred text tells us, be still and know that I am God. And regardless of your spiritual orientation, we are energetic beings. We have electronic current running through our system. We are always giving off a vibration. And so the vibration can be very wonky, or it can just flow a little more smoothly if we take time to collect ourselves. The collecting of ourselves gives us more space and more access to the parts of our brain, the prefrontal cortex, that's in charge of reasoning and knowledge. And when we're upset and stressed out and hijacked, if you will, by all kinds of triggers, including racism, we don't have access to that. And that's what actually led me into designing this program for people of African ancestry, is as I learned more about mindfulness, which is about being present in mind, body, and surroundings. And I learned about the principle of neuroplasticity, which basically says what we think, do, and pay attention to with consistency, that shapes our brain structure and it shapes the experience that we're having. And I was like, well, wait a minute. Can we just apply this to the liberation of Black people? And the answer is yes. And so that's what I'm doing.
So wonderful. So you're in the process of waking people up.
Yes, to their own right to flourish, to their own beauty, their own humanity, which racism is a dehumanization process. It dehumanizes us. I'm in the process of saying, stop, take a breath, take 2 steps back. Let's, number one, humanity, examine this narrative that we've been living under. There's holes in it, and there's a lot of untruths in it. And there's a lot of ways that we live and respond to it that are not serving us. Then that's humanity, then joy. Let's tap into the God-given fuel that is generating us for life, and then well-being. What are the being well practices that we need to implement on a day-to-day basis to have us change?
Well, that leads me into when you said that how you deal with the racism part of it, because there's so much. When I think about our young Black men that are constantly being shot in the back, and even our Black women now, how does that work? What do you do?
Well, the doing is, first of all, is part of how we get hijacked is the story of Black pain. Whether the pain is through enslavement or the current grief that we experience when people are unfairly and tragically murdered by the police or other structures, right?
I was going to say the system. I'll just say the system.
Yeah, that are the system. So what we want to do is we want to put that though in perspective. If that's our focus, that takes us on a pathway, a downward spiral of deep sadness, depression, disappointment. And that is not where, on the emotional guidance scale, where transformation and manifesting a new way of being happens. So it is true that we must be respectful of what has happened to us. That's the trauma question. The trauma question is always what has happened to us. So we must be respectful of what has happened to us, but we must find our way to the other part of our story, of what has happened to us, to build a mindset and an outlook and a vibration that generates a different experience. If we're constantly in the mud of that does not generate the experience of flourishing. And self-love is our best protection. So will bad things happen? Yes, they will. And we will continue, though, to put it in perspective and keep going. Black people walked off of plantations. They went to find their family members that had been lost over years. They got married, and they went about the business of forming cohorts to go out and build over 100 towns. Like, how do you build a town, Kelly? I don't even know. This is what our ancestors did. Yeah. The town that we celebrate so much, which we just celebrated a big anniversary of Greenwood, Black Wall Street. That was one of over 100 towns that we built. I think our sights, our perspective, what we immerse ourselves in needs to be different. And that's where mindfulness helps. It helps us to calm the reactivity of the trigger, of the pain, source the data that we need from those emotions, but then we move on. And that is what, and actually I believe in my heart, that is what our ancestors have tasked us to do. They left us and they said, I did not ask you to take up my pain. I want you to take up the resources and the strength that I left you and fill in the gap for your generation and your time and pass something better on to the next generation. And we are failing at that if we are constantly in the soup of Black pain. And by the way, us making a shrine to Black pain works very well for the dominant culture. Why? Because it immobilizes us. And it makes—
Tell me this. Well, so I get that, but I know that it's definitely a mindset. How do you get people ready for that mindset? Is the meditation and the mindfulness the way to that? And then how are you reaching those in the community that desperately need that?
Well, my mission is not to just do what I don't believe in is just this mass spreading, because you can't spread yourself all over the place. Sure. My mission at this moment is to curate a pristine program called the Right Within Experience, which we will pilot in 2022. We've got a beautiful grant from the Katali Foundation, and I have spent like this year and a half doing field work, presenting nuggets, and kind of beta testing the content. We will pilot it first with people who are on the front line of community service and social justice, because these are people already connected to community. And if we can help them be better and do their work better, see, there will be a ripple effect to the people that they serve. And the next group that we will pilot with are innovators, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders. Because if you then help those people rewire their neural pathway and tap into their intuition and imagination, what they're already up to and desiring to be and do great things. So those are the two paths that I am committed to in the beginning. And then we will see how the work wants to grow organically. So that's how we do it. And then the how you ask is, one, you change the narrative. You have to change what you believe. You have to change your story. If your story is full of what I call the victim vortex, the things that pull us down into, see, they're always after us. See, that's why, blah, blah, blah. See, and Black people, you have to unpack the depths of internalized oppression. So we do that in the humanities section by rewriting the story. One is that mindfulness, quote unquote, meditation, being still, contemplation, is African in lineage. You can look on the walls of the pyramid. It's African in lineage. We were the only people on the face of the earth 300,000 years ago. We moved out and populated East and West Asia, and we brought with us these embodied practices that our Asian brothers and sisters codified through Hinduism, Buddhism, et cetera, and that young white people in the 70s went to India and Asia and then brought these practices back to the West. So let's just get clear. The practice of being still and quiet and reflective and contemplative is African. So that's number one. We get the story right, and we get aspects of the history right. So that's where we start. And we absolutely teach people mindfulness practices, which begins with, as Dr. Staggers calls it, quiet sitting. And we help people bring that into their day-to-day lives. And I also am certified in a wonderful technology called heart math. And so we will be helping people work with the energy of the heart. The heart has its own brain. The heart has an electromagnetic current that goes like 4 feet outside of your body. That's why you could say, oh, I feel you. I feel her. Oh,
exactly.
we
Yes.
are very,
so we really are feeling it, right?
We really are feeling it. So those are the means in which we will begin to retrain, because it's a focused attention training. So the words that come out of my mouth are simple. The process is simple, but it requires consistency. Because remember, neuroplasticity, how your brain changes, it's malleable. You can teach an old dog new tricks. It's malleable. It can change based on what you think, do, and pay attention to with consistency. And that's the piece, the devotion and the dedication to my own self-love that will take me through a process, and then being in a community with others that are also growing. This is how we will grow this. There's nothing, we don't need anything fast and fancy, and we don't need to be pretentious. We need to be pristine. We need to be accurate. We need to be loving, and we need to be practiced. And that will have great potency and power, and that's how things will shift. This is the internal work that needs to happen. As people are on the front lines, doing things to shift the systems, you cannot give what you don't have. If you're trying to shift the system, after you have been trained up by that system, you will inevitably use some of the same dysfunctional ways and beings that the system taught you, because we've been trained up. It's a programming. So you have to slow it down. It's like taking thread off of a spool. You've got to pull it off. And so that's what this process and what I'm committed to is about, and why, the Katali Foundation said this is, yes, this is something that should be invested in. Why Mindful Magazine found me as in 2020 as a change agent, as one of the powerful women in the mindfulness movement. And my focus is, how do I take this and bring this lusciousness to Black people? And then in the public health arena, how do I take this and bring it into the public health arena that is all about the health of large populations? So
I was going to necessarily ask you that, because you did grace the cover of that magazine. So not only were you in it, you were on the cover of it. And it's a beautiful photo of you. Yeah, so that, but then that also led to other things for you too, didn't it?
well, I'm here with you. People call me to speak on podcasts and to bring this forward. I've been very happy to support the work of local KTVU television. I've been on in the pandemic like about 5 or 6 times to just comment on different issues and highlight this whole notion of trauma. And it's not so much about getting over it, but it's about the healing balm of trauma, which is connection, and which is deciding to live life well in the aftermath of our trauma. And that's what resilience is. And so that's what has been wonderful. I did an interview with a beautiful sister, Michelle Cassandra Johnson. We're not related, but we should be, because I love her work. She wrote a book about our collective grief and about how do you move through that. And so that interview can be found at the California Institute of Integral Studies in their public programs. So her book is called Finding Refuge. So I think that the word is getting out about this concept. I don't feel that the concept is, quite frankly, new, because there is nothing new under the sun. I am simply a curator looking at Black psychology, the work of our wonderful scholars, and taking and all the goodness that's in the mindfulness movement and putting it and packaging it in such a way that our people can take advantage of it, have access to it, and use it. Because we are not here to suffer. That is not why we came on the planet. We came on the planet to love and to flourish and to move through these gauntlets of life lessons and to master life,
That's beautiful. What a wonderful journey you're on, and such an important journey to be able to actually start helping change the mindset and getting people stronger and really ready to take on the challenges that we're going to be faced with, especially with the political climate that's happening. You know, I bring that up because I think it's important that we vote. You know, that we vote, because if we don't, girl, America will never be the same again. So it's really important that we hold on to our democracy. So making sure that we as a Black group support a lot, because we have a lot of Black politicians that are coming up now too. You know, like a Stacey Abrams, who is definitely another change leader. So it's just important that, you know, that happens too. So I'm just happy that what you're doing is actually going to get people to become more aware, not, you know, like you said, around their environment too, not just within, but how can I be of service to my community as well? Because we are all our brother's keeper, whether we know it or not.
Well, we live in a world, we are designed as human beings we're social animals. We're designed as human beings to live in community. And we are also interdependent. And the culture of the delusion of white supremacy is all about independence and being on your own. But that is not truly the design of life. It is about being interdependent. And the whole notion of voting, you could see how there's movements afoot to suppress
Yes,
access to voting. And this is not
absolutely.
new. This is not new.
Absolutely.
So part of
Absolutely.
what we want to be able to do is to hold that complexity without with an ability to stay in myself. And that's why the work that I'm doing, I think, can be helpful to add to the menu of possibilities, the menu of opportunities to help us be well. Because the microaggressions and the challenges of racism are designed to dysregulate and to throw us off and to have us in a state of hypervigilance. And it's, I tell this story often. My son is a young adult now, but when he was a teenager and out and about, I would call him up, Khalid, where are you? He says, well, Mom, I'm on the bus. Well, where's the bus? This,
Yeah, exactly.
because I was buying into the story. I'm not even going to say the full story, the Black mother, Black son story. And I was like, my system cannot handle this, and it is unfair for me to put that energy on him. So I had to go back to my roots of my own trust, build my own faith, and expand through my mindfulness practices. Because that whole thing, that's what I'm talking to you about, the Shrine of Black Pain, is designed to keep you off. It's designed to keep you hypervigilant. It's designed to keep you looking for bad things to happen. And you know what? If you keep looking for that, you know what's going to happen? Bad things. It's designed to have you be so sensitive that the least thing it's called fight, flight, freeze, appease, we shuffle along, or dissociate. We simply leave our bodies, and it's the shell of a person moving through. I have this little coffee shop that just opened up in my neighborhood, and so I went a couple of times, and I was feeling like that was kind of icy. And I was like, girl, now look, we ain't even gonna go down that road. So you will go back, and the next time you go, you just gonna take control of the situation. So, but I needed to do it not as a heavy lift, right? Because sometimes we do it like that. I needed to do it from drop into who you really are, and in the essence of me, girl, is love.
Then when you walk back in there, it's a
And
whole
I
new
went
you.
back and I said, okay, and tell me what's on the, and I said, and so, and what is, and I'm in myself, I'm not high voice. And what is your name? And what is your name? And no almond croissants today. And he said, oh, the owner does the night thing. And he's explaining to me. I said, well, you tell the owner that one of his customers loves those almond croissants. And these two young white men are just looking at me bug-eyed because the vibration was so unfamiliar to them, because I already could tell they're not used to dealing with Black people. But they also couldn't put a pin on it. That one, I have no bitterness because I'm in charge of my experience this morning, today, and I'm about to have the experience that I want to have. And I did. But that takes us being so locked in and devoted to our own love, my own love affair with myself. Because at the end of the day, it really doesn't have anything to do with them. It has to do with what is my intention and how is it that I want to move through the world, and how do I create the experience that I want to have.
That's right. It's not what happens to you, it's how you respond to what's happened to you.
Absolutely.
But you know what? In the moment, sometimes,
Well,
and
that's why we
what it
practice.
is. Yeah, because I was going to say in the moment, sometimes it really calls on you just having to go there.
Well, here's the thing: the go there must be a choice and not a push. So, and at all times, you are in control of what comes out of here.
Absolutely.
So I can tell you the zip damn truth and still be totally ground centered, rooted. It's when we're out of our root and now all this, and
then it gets out of control.
That energetically is draining. It's depleting. It doesn't have you walk away saying, okay, yeah, that was a little, but I had myself. This is why we practice before the quiet sitting in the morning before you start your day is what you take into your life. It's not mystical. It is the habits and practices that you build that you take into your life and you bring into these real world challenges. And it's like building a muscle. The more you do it, the stronger you get, the better you get at it.
No, absolutely. I think it's wonderful. I think that what you're doing is so precious. And I know that this podcast is going to help a whole lot of people really kind of rethink and, find out more information about your movement. Now, what I would like to do now is kind of segue into something else about you. So I would like for you to tell me 3 people that have inspired you.
Oh my gosh, there's so many. My mom, for one. I'm going to say Judith Jamison. If you can see the back of the wall, there's a beautiful picture of Judith Jamison. She is one of the original founding members of the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater. And I'm a former dancer. And so as a young person, I found her just incredibly inspiring. And oh my God, there's so many. Where can I land on this one? 3 people that have inspired me. I'm going to land on Dr. Martin Luther King.
Okay. Tell me why you chose him.
Because I think what people forget is that Dr. King came to Montgomery, Alabama at 26 years old. And that's when he was chosen to lead the Montgomery bus boycott. And he was assassinated at 39. He never even reached the age of 40. So I think that the message of love that he had and the maturity he was still very much a young man. I really respect that.
Wow.
I really respect that. He was not an elder. He never made elder status. We look at him like he was an elder, but he's not. He wasn't an elder. He was still a young man, still a very young man.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So now, as we get ready to close, is there any kind of parting words you would like to leave with the Straight Talking with Kelly podcast listening audience?
Yes, let me share with your audience a simple mindfulness practice. It's called STOP. So stop, take a breath, observe, and P is then you proceed mindfully, or stop, take a breath, observe. You're observing mind, body, surroundings. You're assessing what's happening here. And then P is pray. Access your faith, your higher power. So it's a simple practice called STOP. And it's a very basic integrated mindfulness practice that you can use on the move in your day when things seem a little chaotic. And then the next one is simply like breathing in, I do my breaths, breathing out, I let go of the rest. These are little integrated practices that can help reset us through the day.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, Jenée, I would like to thank you again for being on Straight Talking with Kelly, where real conversations happen. And to my listening audience, thank you so much for being here. Until next time.